3 of the 5 bikes that Suzuki entered in the 1959 Mount Asama race broke down, and only one machine actually crossed the finish line. But for one lap, just one lap, Suzuki was king. In 5 minutes and 50 seconds, the little Colita recorded the fastest lap among all competitors at the race. Even though they didn't win, Suzuki had served notice that they were ready to take the next step. Now, their challenge was to build fast bikes that could go the distance.
Win. And if you win, then people understand your product. And it's simple.
As the 60s dawned, Suzuki would reinvent its racing bikes with help from an unexpected source, a German racer and designer named Ernst Degner. In 1961, Degner and his family escaped from East Berlin hidden in the trunk of a car. Just a few weeks later, Suzuki management met Degner at the Swedish Grand Prix and hired him on the spot. They wanted Degner's help in gaining exposure for their bikes in the West. They hoped his experience would help Suzuki win what was then the most important motorcycle race in the world. The Isle of Man TT.
We started international business with a motorcycle from racing of Isles of Man. So for Suzuki, race is core.
In 1962, with Degner riding a motorcycle he helped design, Suzuki won the Isle of Man. Knowing that demand for new motorcycles was growing both in the US and Europe, Suzuki decided to take what it had learned from racing and reinvent its next motorcycle. In just 13 years, Suzuki had gone from weaving to winning. From a tiny moped to the world's fastest 250cc machine. In 1965, Suzuki built the T20. It was a bike aimed directly at the US market. The T20 had a 2-stroke engine, the same type of engine used in old lawnmowers or chainsaws. 2 strokes burn a mixture of gasoline and oil. They make a lot of power, but they're loud and smoke pours from their exhaust pipes.
The T20 was a big motorcycle. It was known here in the States as the X6 Hustler. It was a real jump for Suzuki. It was a 250cc 2-stroke twin, fast, handled well. That bike was a good race bike. It was a good street bike. It kind of showed where Suzuki was going in terms of 2-stroke stuff.
By 1968, Suzuki had doubled the size of its engine to 500 cc's, the largest 2-cycle engine in any motorcycle of its day. Called the T500, the new bike could top 110 miles an hour.
In 1976, Suzuki introduced the GS750, and that really was kind of the next big superbike.
Once more, Suzuki had reinvented itself. Only this time, the company's reinvention foreshadowed the era of the modern sport bike. The GS750 was the company's first 4-stroke engine design. 4 strokes are like modern automobile engines. They only burn gasoline, and they make less noise and less pollution.
Suzuki's reinvention is interesting. I especially like the part where they went from 2 strokes to 4 strokes, because that was a big jump for them. But boy, they sure pulled it off, and they pulled it off right away. There wasn't a big learning curve for them.
1982, Suzuki engineers began work on a new 750cc motorcycle that would change the motorcycle landscape forever. In 1985, Suzuki shocked the motorcycle world when they introduced the all-new GSXR 750.
We had the GS750 in our lineup. We added the R, which stands for racing. The GSXR models were born on the racetrack. They were designed to be fast, agile, cutting-edge machines.
The four strokes were GS. And then X was, I believe, like sort of experimental, and R's for racing. So, the initial GSXR of 1985, that was like a race bike. It was like an endurance race bike. It had lights. It just rolled off the Bol d'Or or off Le Mans, and here it was.
It was not only a breakthrough model, but a breakout machine. The GSXR 750 weighed 104 pounds less than the bike it replaced. Almost overnight, Suzuki had redefined the modern sport bike.
That level of performance when that bike came out, instilled in the sport bike market, that I think has made the entire industry elevate to the level that it's at right now.
At that time, racing motorcycles had many features not seen on street bikes, such as full fairings, aluminum frames, and very powerful brakes.
In racing trim, the new GSXR 750 produced 130 horsepower. It had a high-tech engine that was narrower than previous models and used magnesium to keep the weight down.
The watchword there was lightweight. That thing, they pared it down, aluminum frame, air-cooled engine, so it had no heavy liquid cooling on it. They made the wheels light. They worked on lightening up every piece on it, and it was an extremely light bike.
The GSXR 750 was an immediate success on the racetrack, but not just any racetrack. In 1985, the same year the bike was introduced, 3 French riders, Bernard Millet, Guy Bortin, and Philippe Gouchon, teamed up to ride the all-new machine to victory at the legendary 24 Hours of Le Mans endurance race. The win in France set the stage for Suzuki's breakthrough moment in America. In 1988, the GSXR 750 won the Daytona 200 with a young Texan named Kevin Schwantz on board. The new GSXR 750 was the perfect bike for Schwantz.
I think an aspiring 22, 23-year-old kid who's out to try and prove to the world that he can road race a motorcycle, and a great new sport bike like the Suzuki GSXR just couldn't help but be a great pairing.
In 1986, Suzuki put the GSXR 750 on steroids with the GSXR 1100. It was not a reinvention of the sport bike, more like a big brother to the 750. Some people decided to do their own inventing, adding turbochargers and fuel injection to the 1100.
That bike went 234 miles an hour with me on it, and that's a GSXR to me, something that can be built, leaned on, and deliver the goods. 234 back in those days, it was nobody could believe it. It was incredibly exciting.
The GSXR 750 was still the bike to beat on both the track and the street. But moving into the 1990s, Suzuki would need a lighter, faster, and more powerful motorcycle if they wanted to continue to compete. So what did they do? They decided to reinvent the GSXR.